This is a video recording of Chapter 7, Section 6, entitled Congruence, and this is in the 8th grade workbook. So if we take a look at the top set of questions there, what they're asking us to do is to write a congruence statement for each pair of congruent polygons. So they're telling us already that the shapes are sure to be congruent, which takes a lot of the challenge out of this. We don't have to take the time to prove that the shapes are the same. They're telling us they are already the same. So what we have to do now is just match things up. Now, as you heard me say in class, the easiest way to match things up is by the angles. You can use the sides to benchmark things, but there's different ways to look at them. But if you go from angle to angle, it should be really easy to match up. Let's take a look at how this applies to question number 1. Let's start with the right angle. So the right angle in the illustration on the left is L. And on the triangle on the right, even though it's flipped around, the right angle is still marked at P. Okay, so we've got a starting place. Let's go from the right angle to the angle that's marked 55 degrees. Now, could I choose the 35-degree angle here? Yes, I could. It doesn't really matter. I just happened to pick 55 because I could. So, 55-degree angles. Let's match up the 55-degree angles here. In the illustration on the left, that's point K. On the illustration on the right, that's this point here labeled Q. So the only angle now we have left to match up is the 35-degree angle, which is what I'm going to do last here. In the illustration on the left, that's angle J. In the angle on the right, that's angle T. And there's our congruence statements lined up. Triangle LKJ is congruent to triangle PQT. Now again, the order is not really important, at least in this example. As long as you match up the angles, everything else is going to match up. Now, in number 2, the angle order matters just a little bit more, and you'll see why here. Let's go ahead and take a look at question number 2, the quadrilaterals there. Okay, so we'll start off with the angle measured 100 degrees. In the quadrilateral on the left, that's B. In the quadrilateral on the right, that's J. Now, as I said, the angle order matters just a little bit more here. What you don't want to do is to go to the 85-degree angle now. Because realize, if I start at the 100, all right, the next 2 angles by the corners would either take me to 88 or 87. If I go to 85, I'm going across the shape, which doesn't make any sense, because I still have to name the shape in order, just like we would name an angle in the correct order. So at this point now, you'd either want to go to the 88 or the 87. So let's go to the 87. In the quadrilateral on the left, that's K. In the quadrilateral on the right, that's F. So I've gone from the 100 to the 87, so if I'm following my order around now, that's going to take me to the 85 next. Again, it wouldn't make sense to go to 88 because I'd be crossing the shape. You still want to go around the shape in order. So to the 85s from the quadrilateral on the left, that's L. And from the quadrilateral on the right, that looks like it's an R. My apologies, I've covered a little bit of that up in the illustration there, writing out my answers, but I believe that's R. And then finally, we'll get that 88-degree measure. Again, I'm just following the shape around in the order I've gone here. In the quadrilateral on the left, that's D. In the quadrilateral on the right, that's H. So we now know that quadrilateral BKLD is congruent to quadrilateral JFRH. Again, You can pick any starting place you want as long as you go around the shape somewhat in order. Doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, but once you pick one, you've got to follow it all the way through, at least on the one you start with, and then match it up with however it goes on the one on the right. Notice in this illustration in number 2, they both didn't go the same way because the shape has been translated around, flipped and rotated, so that it's not possible for that to happen there. One other thing to notice there in these congruence statements is look at the sides now that we've listed the statements. For instance, in this one over here on the left, back to the triangles, LK. Well, LK measures 6, and that's the first 2 letters. The first 2 letters in the other one are PQ. Well, that also measures 6. That's what should happen when you do this. It's just that looking at the sides is a little bit harder because if I want to match up the 6, does LK looking just at the 6 match up with PQ, or does it match up with QP? Because PQ and QP, even though they are the same line and they both represent 6, would affect the order there. Of course, we know the 55s have to match up, and that's what's important there because they both have that 55-degree measure, so we want to make sure we line up our statements correctly here.